Welcome to the Dr. Leadership Podcast, where the DR stands for Driving Results. Our focus is weekly conversations around life and business relationships and the important leadership qualities for both. These concepts and qualities will help you drive positive results in both your business and personal lives. A weekly connection point to help business leaders develop individual contributors, managers, and executives on your teams. We also will tie in concepts around family focus and life lessons to help you drive success in your personal life. Welcome to the Dr. Leadership Show. Let's get after it.
Hey everybody, welcome to another edition of the Dr. Leadership Show. The doc be in, no waiting. Hope you had a great week. This is being recorded on Father's Day, so a big shout out to all of the fathers out there. Remember, as a person, you wouldn't even be here without your father because your mother wasn't even in the mood. But happy Father's Day. Had one of my daughters over, did a little lunch, enjoyed that, got a great gift, got a little digital photo thing. Both daughters are now uploading feverishly pictures, and my wife as well. Very, very awesome. So a reminder that we had the conversation this last week with retired Naval Commander Kirk Lippold, and there's a couple of additions or a couple of episodes in the Leadership Lounge out on the membership site to discuss his upbringing, his travels to the Naval Academy in Annapolis, onto his first, second, third, fourth ships, involvement in Beirut with the terrorist bombings of Hezbollah and others, and then on to him taking command of the guided missile destroyer, the USS Cole, and that fateful day in which he was attacked, and his crew was attacked, and his ship was attacked by a suicide bomber from Al-Qaeda in the port of Aden in Yemen in October of 2000, which was the first shot fired in the war on terrorism against us before the buildings were attacked on 9/11. We also go into Front Burner, his book, which is a wonderful, wonderful piece of literature to read from his perspective, eyes-on account of that fateful day and leading up to it, and then after it. A lot of involvement at the Pentagon afterwards. Just a neat story. A true hero, gives all of the accolades to his crew, as every good leader should. But check that out. You can find it at our website, www.drleadershipresults.com. Check on the subscription link. Go out, sign up, minimal investment. You get all sorts of cool stuff like that. Got some other unbelievable guests coming up. Going to leave those in the back here a little bit and let you ponder who might be coming. But want to kind of pivot off of last week's. I said that I'd go into a couple things on last week's episode, and it was about how to bring joy back to your life, work life, personal life, etc. And don't let the blahs keep you down. And today I want to go into something around leadership and some toxic traits of people that are leaders and also just people you interact with that have tremendous insecurities. There's a lot of anxiety in the world. I touched on that in the episode last week about the blahs and how do you get joy back. Everyone's ripe with anxiety. Everything you see and hear is negative. You have the scrolling of these social media sites where everything's fake, so you can't keep up with the proverbial Joneses because you aren't pretty enough, skinny enough, fit enough, rich enough, tall enough, short enough. Redheads like brunettes, brunettes like blondes. It just goes on and on. And you got to quit grading yourself, because what this leads to are psychiatric disorders, and one of them is a very toxic one, that is insecurities. And it can be toxic, especially if you are in a leadership role or management role or interact with people on a regular basis. Insecurity is just a bad, bad deal. It makes people not like you, not respect you, not believe you. It breaks down walls and trust, or builds walls and breaks down trust, and it's a bad, bad deal. So I'm going to use, there was an article, there's a website called Make It that's part of CNBC, and they have an article by Stefan Falk, and it goes into the 7 toxic signs of highly insecure people and also how to deal with them. And I want to go into this because I want everybody to take an inner look here. It's okay to have a fear of failure. I've said before that that's something that drives me. It's okay to be driven in the pursuit of greatness. But if you have insecurities, it causes bad relationships and bad things come out of your mouth, and you aren't going to be as successful as you'd like to be if you go into this. Now, Stefan is a leadership consultant who studies workplace psychology. So this guy does this every single day. I have said for years and years that my role as a leader, and if you are in leadership, executive leadership, if you're in a mid-management role, if you're just leading a team and through impact or through guidance, they don't have a direct report to you, it's very, very important to understand these traits. And I've always said that you're a psychologist. It really is time on the couch with people at times. I too need it every once in a while. My wife and I act like that to each other. We're sounding boards. You need to have a mentor. You need to have someone that lets you burn steam off. I don't have a lot of people that don't. I have people that come to me with problems all the time. I too need someone to be able to lean on and just get some of the steam off the pot, if you know what I mean, because life is coming at you very, very fast. So he found that the hardest personalities to deal with, there's all sorts of personalities in life. There's good traits and bad traits, but when you boil it down to what is a bad personality, the worst to deal with are those that are highly insecure, because it's just an unknown time bomb. You don't know ever what you're going to be dealing with because they have several traits that can be poor to performance or negating to good performance. Now, as I said before, everyone has some level of insecurity, and it's natural. But problematic behaviors can develop when people consistently attempt to conceal it or even compensate for their self-doubt. The toxic, insecure people will go out of their way to overemphasize other things that typically aren't true because they're trying to fix in their own brain their self-doubt, their insecurities that others are judging them. First of all, I want everybody to remember what I told my kids growing up on social media. They don't want to do this, they don't want to do that because they will be judged. In this world, people are so interested in their damn selves that they aren't paying attention to you. No one's looking after you that close and grading you on a curve. Don't be judgmental of others, and don't let other people be judgmental of you, but also don't get locked up in your own brain pattern here that everybody's looking at you and grading you on everything in life. Everyone has that insecurity. It's okay. I have dealt with these type of people in the past, and it's a big challenge. In thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of interactions across this big company I work for, and 55 years on this planet Earth, rotating and flying through space, I've dealt with a lot of different people. And these people that are insecure, passive-aggressive, those types of things that come from it are very, very challenging. Typically, insecure types are really risk-adverse. And what I mean by that, it's ultimately unproductive. And if they have made it to a place of power, it really shows up. It can cause a lack of productivity for themselves and others. How some of these people get there through this lack of this insecurity problem that they have, they probably have talked their way to the proverbial top here by misleading others, trying to take credit, etc. I'll get into a little deeper here in a minute to get into that position. And if you're an insecure person in a place of power, again, self-reflection here, stop it. You are having very detrimental effects with these traits that I'm going to go through from Stefan's article that are impacting performance, outcomes, attitudes, followership. The list goes on and on. If you are doing these things, and many times insecure people can also have some narcissism to them, which is amazing. Because one is, it's deep in the mental core. I've got to lie or mislead or take credit when it's not due because I'm insecure that people are thinking I'm not good. But it leads to other attributes where it's just not good. I'm not even going to try to go down the psychological where it's just not good. I've got a question for everybody. Have you ever had a leader whose only concentration is on like the price of an idea and not the outcome? Have you ever had somebody that is just so adverse to risk? Well, that's going to cost money. We don't have that money. We don't have that in the budget. We don't have the ability to do that right now. It may be the most crucial expense you could ever make to enhance performance, and they see it as negative versus seeing the needs to drive the growth as a sales leader. I'm coming from that perspective today. You need to invest to get outcomes. You need to spend some money to make some money at times. The sell down low in the P&L is just an outcome of lots of sells up above in the P&L. One of those being growth in revenue and GP and money that the company's making on whatever you're engaging with. You can't judge everything on what happens to a single sell just based on the action. You have to determine in your mind as a leader what the action's outcome will be over time. That's known as an investment. It's not an expense, it's an investment. Don't see the negative versus the needs to drive the growth. That example, again, is always focusing on the investment request amount versus why the investment is needed. It's short game thinking versus long game thinking. Good leaders understand the long game. Good leaders understand what it takes to develop the outcomes that are being asked of you to grow, to go into new markets, to take your sell. The world has changed, right? This pandemic has caused all sorts of change for all of us. First of all, the old Warren Buffett, are you investing in yourself? I'm talking all of you as an individual now. Invest in your outcomes down the road by spending the time today to develop yourself to what the new needs are to be successful in whatever you do. In whatever you do. But don't focus on just the pain of that investment at this point. Remember, investing in yourself today causes pain today and joy tomorrow. Not investing today causes easy today, joy today, and pain tomorrow. Take on some pain today. Leaders, understand the investments. Listen to your people, what they think they need, what they say they need, because they have a pretty good idea on it. As an individual, invest in yourself. It's like practice, man. Practice for 3 hours so you can go out on the field of whatever your favorite sport is, whatever your hobby is, and compete at a high level. If you don't do anything today and go out, you're going to get your ass handed to you. That's true in life. That's true in hobbies. That's true in anything else. Remember, you can't cut or divide to growth. You can't cut yourself short and expect to grow. You can't divide your time across only things that are good for you and feel good and expect growth to happen. You got to look at the long game. Amy Gallo, she's a Harvard career expert, and she dives into the 7 most toxic traits. So Stefan wrote the article, but the basis is from some Harvard studies. And Amy, again, as I said, she's a career expert. She dives into these 7 top toxic traits. That's a tough one. These 7 toxic traits of insecure people. It's toxic since it has negative effects on those around them, not just you, but the impacts you're having on others. What environmental impacts are you having with these attitudes? The number one is the big one. I mean, I just read this. I'm going to stop the article. I'm like, well, I'll just do an hour on that. They are overly concerned. Toxic, insecure people. Big insecurities. They are overly concerned about what others think of them. And again, back to what I say to my kids, people aren't thinking about you. You aren't that important. No one is. They're self-centered. One big thing, need to be recognized for any win or good thing happening. They never can be wrong. They always act like they are above the fray or better than. Well, I can't believe you think like that. Of course, I would never do something like that. Or they're not involved in something. Hey, I want you to know that, the team won this deal. It was the 2 sellers down at the field level, but they couldn't have done it if I wouldn't have put them on that account. That's like me saying something like that. I don't need to impress the CEO of my organization. If I haven't done it in the last 33 years of work, 28 years in leadership, by my day-to-day actions and showing how I can drive followership, it ain't going to matter if he or she thinks that I had something to do with a transaction. That is a big insecurity. Like I said, I almost read one and just said, well, that's it. I'll just do the whole thing on that. Number 2, and this one drives me nuts, but people can be really wishy-washy. They play I don't know. They play how would I say this? They're always playing the crowd they're in front of. They never have a real firm opinion, right? That can be passive aggressive too, but whoever they're in front of, let's say I'm this insecure person. If I'm managing up, I'm talking up, I've got it all under control and everything's fine, and doggone it, we're going to drive them through the results. I know that it's a big ask. And then when they're managing down, they manage completely different. They come to you and are wishy-washy on the decision. Well, we really should do something like that, but I don't know if I can get it done. They're always meandering to be they're like politicians, right? Watch the politicians as we're getting ready for this election. Not ready. We're already running for November of next year. Blech. God, I'm just so sick of this crap. Watch what they do. It's like when politicians are in front of a Hispanic crowd. They get a little Hispanic drawl. When they're in the South, they sound a little Southern. When they're in the Northeast, they sound a little Northeasty. They claim heritage that isn't theirs. They tell stories about how their father was this or their mother was that to tie in. When they're in front of unions, they're all for union labor. When they're not in front of it, they're for offshoring for the big manufacturers and big corporations to drive margin. Watch them. Many times, chronic inability to make decisions even when small. The waste of them, the wasted time will even change direction and blame others for the first direction they gave being wrong. They'll just spend time on people. I didn't say that. We're doing this. The wind changed somewhere, upstairs, up above you. I didn't say that because I couldn't be wrong. Hey, it's okay to say, I've been thinking about this, and I don't think I had this thing right the first time. You know what kind of respect you're going to get from people around your subordinates, the people on your teams? When you raise your hand, they never can be seen as wrong because they're insecurity. This is a killer to followership and likability. People love accountability and hate projection of blame. It's the victim attitude thing that drives me nuts. Be a victor, not a victim. The greatest of leaders, the greatest of individual contributors. Let's take high quality athletes as an individual contributor here. They hold themselves accountable. Mini games. Michael Jordan will say, I've missed 9,000 shots in my life. He doesn't talk about how he shot 45% from the three, 6 championships. He doesn't go into that. He takes accountability for the things he didn't do right. That's why he's the GOAT. It's not even close. He's the GOAT. People love that. Number 4, I've experienced this one a ton over the years. Insecure people try to change the direction of projects and meetings. Chaos, misdirection, delays, advancing goals. They can't. It goes back to that one where they can't make a decision, right? They can't get a firm opinion. Now, I'm not saying to come in and say you got it figured out and just drive through it and take the car off the cliff if it's not right. But what I'm saying is you soak it in, you make a decision, and then you stay on track. The other thing that'll happen is if they're insecure about a topic, insecure people will change direction of the conversation to get away from what they are not comfortable talking about. They don't want to be seen as not knowing something. The first thing you ought to do when you don't know something is stop the conversation and say, hold on a second. Can you explain that to me? I don't know if I'm familiar with that. That's a sign of intellectual maturity, emotional maturity, business maturity. It's okay to not have all the answers. You want to get rid of the blahs around you and bring passion back to your sales force, your office environment, your family, your neighborhood. Be vulnerable to be able to be seen as making mistakes every once in a while. I've made a lot of them, man. I'm the first one to raise my hand. Again, not saying I'm great at all this, but I will raise my hand when I screw something up. I'm also the one that'll stand up and go toe-to-toe with somebody if they start to try to pass blame to people. Got no tolerance for that. Don't redirect, don't misdirect, don't project. You're going to kill your goals. You're going to kill the outcomes. Now, number 5, I wrote down here, I despise 5. They put others down to make themselves look more important. So aggravating. It's like bullies. Zero tolerance for bullies. I've had several interactions on airplanes over the years, or just off of the airplanes, with people that were bullying staff. The person at the gate agent, the person bringing the baggage up into the walkway. Following my dad's funeral, I had to get actively involved, and I shoved a guy into a seat and told him I was going to hit him so hard he'd be on the next flight from Chicago in front of my kids and my then girlfriend, not wife. And the stewardess came down and said, "What's going on?" And this guy had been belligerent to the young couple in front of them for the entire flight. And I just had enough. We bailed out of a landing, and he's screaming and yelling, "Where's my drink?" And the couple turned around and said, "Could you please quit being belligerent? You've been this way the whole flight." And he stood up, started putting his finger in the guy and girl's face. They were like 25. I had just left my dad's funeral, and I stood up and I shoved him into the seat and said, "Guess," and it was on a regional plane. So I look like Godzilla on a small regional jet, 6'2", 245. And this guy was about 5'9" and like 180, but was just a bully. Yeah, he didn't like it when the Chicago police showed up with the plane landed. But I can't stand these people that put others down to make themselves look more important. He was trying to make himself look tough, right? I'm not saying I'm tough. I may not win the fight, but you'll know I'm in it. But these people have little ability to push back on who has authority. They have no backbone. They're many times passive aggressive. They're super condescending, shallow. One word, asshole-ish. Look it up. It's got the ISH at the end. Ish. Asshole-ish is what these people are. These insecurities cause them to be passive aggressive and condescending to others. I can come across that way sometimes, I suppose. I need to practice what I preach here a little bit because I'm very direct. I don't have a lot of fluff sometimes. That's different than intentionally tearing people down. That's never my intent. I am direct. I have strong beliefs. I do believe I listen well. But don't be a condescending a-hole. Don't have no backbone in facing the realities of things and use your authority if you're a leader to minimize input from others. If someone is getting a little more screen time in the meeting, don't use your authority to tamper that down. That may be good. You're going to destroy the followership. You cannot be that person. The other thing that always happens that these people show, and this was number 6 from this young lady's study and her feedback, they always are too busy. They're always so busy to show how important they are, how in demand they are. You ever had someone that is always late to every meeting? Now we're talking these virtual meetings, right? They're late every time. First of all, terribly disrespectful. You either don't know how to run your calendar or you're doing something with intent. They're always late. The funny thing about it today is when you have somebody like that, many times they probably aren't busy or occupied, and you can tell because the little red, green, and yellow lights on Teams and on your instant messaging apps and everything, you can tell that these people are sitting there just kind of waiting. It used to be fashionably late, right? You don't show up to the party at 9, you show up at 9:30, man, because I'm cool. Don't do that in your business life. If you aren't early, you're late to a meeting. Now, 1-2 minutes is one thing. We're going call to call. But if you're always 10 minutes, 15 minutes, plan better. Schedule the meetings for 45 minutes. Remember we talked about meeting planning? That's 5-6 months ago. Schedule your meetings for 45 minutes, not for an hour. Build in the buffer. Toxic people are compulsive liars. So when they say they're so busy and getting it done, they just lie to lie. Why is that? I don't get it. It's terrible. The other thing is these terrible leaders, this was number 7 in the study, they're paranoid meddlers who make you question your every move. They start to almost like gaslight you. They're pushing on you all the time to show their grandness, their greatness, based on their just thriving insecurity inside because they're scared someone doesn't think they're awesome. They make you question your own self. Many times they're really big on inspection and reports. They want to find something wrong, even when the results are good. I've seen some leaders that just they think that you got to tear people down to be a good leader. It's like, hey man, the 80s called. They want their leadership back. This isn't friggin', Squadron 101 entering boot camp. That I understand. It's to break down. A lot of times the people have some problems coming into the military, so they got to break it down, establish authority. I get that. but they will build you up, make you the greatest team member of your life. These people just inspect to find something wrong. Yeah, but what about this? Yeah, that's great, but what about this? Yeah, but they always want to be seen as that person who finds something they can say. You missed even when the something is associated, has zero value. You know these people. Are you one of these people? Do you search for something wrong? Do you search for something to correct? Do you not feel important? See, I say, so I just met a bunch of new staff out in Colorado this last week. Awesome people in Boulder. Shout out to you. And they had the big meeting room set up for me. Can we get you breakfast? What would you like brought in for lunch? And I'm like, whoa, whoa, whoa. I'm just Brent. I'm just one of us. I have some different responsibilities. If you think that they should bring things to you and get me another cup of coffee and that kind of stuff, man, shame on you. That's awful. That's terrible leadership. You drive a feeling of lack of trust. You build up walls. You're your own worst enemy. That's going to cause the insecurity to be even stronger because you can feel you're losing the crowd. So it's self-perpetuating. Don't be that person. Engage servant's attitudes as a leader. Same as an individual contributor. Put your arm on those people that are less fortunate. Pick up the downtrodden. A lot of biblical references here. A lot of Statue of Liberty type things here. Welcome those that are less fortunate. Engage in your community. I talk about all this stuff. It all ties together. Now, we got figured out all the crap that these people show and what they carry around with them. How do you engage with these people? First thing you got to do is you can't throw the baby out with the bathwater and start judging everybody that they're all this toxic level. So you got to assess the size. Are they always halfway? Are they rarely showing the above signs and traits? If rarely, then not a problem. But if it's often, oh boy, you got yourself one. So you got to judge them on the score on the board, right? If they're doing it all the time, it's time to take some of these actions. If it's just rarely, it's just, hey, people being a little bit of people. Identify the root cause too. What sets them off? Can it be avoided? Is there something that always sets off this person with their insecurities? Try to avoid that type of conversation. Set it up so that conversation doesn't come up. Answer the questions or set it up so they won't feel insecure about those things. Do that on the front side. Try to have compassion in all this too. Can you help them self-discover it? Feedback's a gift if you choose to accept it. Some leaders do not ever want feedback because of the chain of command. That's how we managed in the 60s, 70s, 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, and even into the 90s. All of the leaders had come out of war. It was a very men-heavy environment. It was a clear hierarchy through command and control and through the chain of command. So that's how businesses started to run. Then in the late 80s, 90s, 2000s, we started to get some psychological discovery going on here. And we started figuring out that people don't respond as well to that. And you need feedback up. You need bi-directional communication to drive companies into these changes. You had the big .com era come about where technology and changes were going on. Free thinking. Empower your people to expand their minds, and they'll figure out how to fix it if you empower your people. Overinvest in getting to know them. Lots of one-on-one time. Get interested in them. Find out what makes them tick, and it leads to better communication. So that's another step. Be transparent in how you communicate with them. You know, say things like, I'm certain about this. I'm pretty sure about this. I'm going to look into it. And then this last piece I'm not really sure about as you set up a conversation. Because what insecure people will do is they'll immediately look at you and start to find a place to challenge and show their authority. So go ahead and drop the ability to challenge. Say, this we know. You and I know this. This we're pretty sure on. I'm looking into it. And this I'm not real sure. It gives them the opportunity to not have to come across harsh. They understand that there's breathing room there. And then fill in the gaps together. Each person, this is also true in working with prospects and negotiation. I will get to that someday. Fill in the gaps together. Each person should have action items when you're dealing with individuals. This is your boss. This is as an individual contributor. This is how you take on people with those big insecurities, is give them action items so they feel that they have to be a part of it. Everybody should have an action item, just like with a prospect. You can't have all the action items. You got to say, I'll tell you what, next time I come back, I'm going to get that price and everything for you. If you could return and let me know who else on the committee is going to be helping make this decision, we'll swap notes in our next meeting and we'll take the next step forward. I just gave the prospect an action item. Same thing with these insecure people. Involve them in so that they can't turn and can't act like they're above the fray. And then the number one thing, and I hate this because it's like going out of my way, but show them you're not a threat. Be an ally. Not ass kiss, but just let them know, hey man, don't worry about me. I don't want that role. Be an ally and try to diminish their options. The options on being insecure. Don't give them a bunch of things. They're, kiss ass a little. I hate to say it, but it hurts less than them being insecure and toxic. You got to sometimes help people through their own inhibitions and toxic personality traits. As a leader, if you want to help people out of the blahs, you cannot be insecure. You cannot hold these traits. As an individual contributor with your teams, as a member of your family, you cannot show these insecurities and be assholish. It always all comes back to just be a good person. It always comes back to just lean into relationships. It always comes back to don't think you're special. Your parents think you're special, but you aren't. You're one of 8 billion floating around this planet. All of us have it a lot better than 99.99% of this world. Be appreciative. Most important thing is just concentrate on being awesome. Keep that shit up. Talk next week.